Okay. Can you hear me? Because I'm just going to introduce you and then it's like 20 seconds. Okay. All right. So, yeah, welcome. And those online as well, welcome. I'm glad you're able to join us. So, we're going to go ahead and get started. And this morning's, and first of all, thank you for being here. Friday mornings are tough. Um, I have the pleasure of introducing the Data Science Nigeria team to present their work. So, Data Science Nigeria, you guys are relatively new to DHIS2. Generally? Like how many years have you been doing it or even less? 2 years, which is fantastic. Most people who come to this have been doing DHIS2 their entire lives. So I just got to say, it's super encouraging to see that there are new organizations coming in, especially from the global south, doing innovative work. Um, Sophia, our education lead, uh, somehow talked to you guys at some point. Um, and I talk to Sophia on a regular basis, obviously, and she said, Scott, you've got to check out what this group in Nigeria is doing. And then she described to me, and I was like, I kind of don't believe it. And then I reached out to you guys, and you presented it back to me, and I was like, oh my God, like this is ticking all the boxes. So without further ado, I just want to let you guys show what you've done, and we'll have you back next year. You'll continue to work on it, and we'll have you back next year, and you'll present at a plenary in front of all 400 people. So here you go. Who's going first?
Hello, everyone. Uh, My name is Chinazo Anebelundo, and I work with Data Science Nigeria. I have my team members, Ahmad Uyi Chimoge, who will be talking after me shortly. Today, we are discussing DHIS2 across sectors, and we are thrilled to share what we've done, how we've utilized DHIS2 in Edo State, Nigeria for data governance. Okay, about us. So we are Data Science Nigeria, based out of Nigeria, and we're Africa's foremost data science and artificial intelligence organization. We have a commitment to raise 1 million AI talent across Africa and build AI solutions to improve the lives and well-being of 2 billion people in the emerging market. This vision actually gave birth to a startup because we are pleased and we enjoy building AI solutions that improve lives of everyday people. So it gave birth to a startup called Equalize AI, where we collect local languages, curate African language data set, build small language models that can be integrated into different sectorial solutions that can support everyday people to carry out our everyday tasks. But we'll go back to DHIS. What's our objective for today? So we have the objective for this project is to use data to strengthen Edo State data governance. Edo State is one of the 36 states in Nigeria in such a way that it drives smart governance, intelligent decision making, and efficient public service delivery. So what we've done is to use DHIS2 as a foundation to catalyze the adoption of data usage, both by the ministries, departments, and agencies, as well as so from the top, bottom, and bottom top. Next, please. Next. So to achieve this objective, we've anchored it on 4 pillars. People, building the capacity of people who will utilize this process. Designing a structured process that can be automated to manage this massive data that has been accumulated in the state. And using low-cost technology to achieve that. Because one thing with state government or government-owned parastatals in Nigeria, and I'm sure in low and middle income countries, is the fact that to drive adoption, it has to be low cost. It has to be customizable. It has to be scalable. And these things DHIS2 has been able to achieve for us. And then governance, of course, with the right governance to support sustainability. While the low cost encourages sustainability, we also need to ensure that there's the right governance to continue to motivate and encourage the use of data for decision making. And that gives us our outcome, one government analytics platform. So the right people, the right process, the low-cost technology, low-cost scalable technology, and the right governance to give us one government analytics platform. So we've heard people talk about how they use DHIS2 for data collection, for analysis, for integration, and all of that. They're fantastic. But for us, and for Edo State, what DHIS2 means to us is that it is an enabling tool that has triggered transformative change in Edo State. It gave rise to the fact that the state has now adopted the use of data for everyday decision making. Both the executive, the granular level staff, the ministry heads, sector leaders. Now, this project is established under the umbrella name Edo Dida. If you come to Edo State, Edo Dida is now such a big name because of what it represents. Everybody wants to identify with Edo Dida. If you call for any workshop or event surrounding this project under the umbrella name Edo Dida, everybody wants to, identify with it because it represents so much more. And that's because we have been able to use DHIS2 to achieve that. Next, please. Now, harnessing DHIS2 open source platform, we have this approach, the project sustainability, which anchors on using low-cost technology as opposed to proprietary tools or other vendor-specific tools. So the high degree of platform customization, which we'll share shortly, what we've been able to achieve to customize the platform in such a way that it is relatable to the people. They feel like they know it. That has also driven the project sustainability. And then the availability of a local data center. We know all they talk about data sovereignty, ensuring that the state data, especially given the level of confidentiality that it requires, stays with the state. So we've been able to make that available for them and to encourage them to drive the adoption because they know that, their data is safe within the state environment. And then leadership involvement from the top, from the executive governor, the ministry heads, everybody, all the stakeholders, the relevant stakeholders, we have their support in driving this. And then we have the cross-departmental use case and requirements. So it's not just the top bottom, it's also the granular people who have been actively participating in adopting the whole system that has been set up to support the state. Now, to achieve our objectives, we have these three major pillars. This kind of captures what DHIS2 does, but we've elevated it, building on DHIS2. Now, the first pillar is on data collection. We've been able to customize and build more apps in addition to what DHIS2 offers to achieve our objective of one data governance platform. And those are the DHIS data capture across 30 government agencies. So if you understand how some of the African country administrative level is stationed, you will know that 30 government agencies is a lot. We're talking about education, health, business, agriculture, internal security. 30 of them have adopted this. They've used this to capture their various data, centralize it in a place that they can talk to each other, because we understand that one data has consequence on another. If you're trying to build on health, you have to understand how education impacts health. You're talking about children of school age. You want to understand how, the impact of health on them. So you see that the data talk to each other. Now, this is a big achievement, having 30 government agencies adopt this through the data capture, DHIS data capture. We have the citizen data capture as well. where the citizens express themselves, talk about what's not working. If they see what's not working along the road, they report it. So we've been able to, so these are the different arms of data collection that we've achieved. Then the geospatial data integration to provide contextual insights to what all the data that has been captured is giving. So if we're talking about flooding, if we're talking about where the farmers are, we want to understand the impact of flooding. So we've been able to bring in geospatial data integration to enhance the insights that we ordinarily get from just the data that has been captured. And then the education management information system, health, business data verification portal. So we go to data presentations. Beyond the DHIS2 dashboards, we've been able to get other platforms like the Apache Superset, which has gives more visually exciting presentation and dashboards, because we've come to understand that when the visualization is more appealing, it tells the story better. And when it's more customizable, it tells the story better. So we have a cross-department derived data audio explainer. So this one is an interesting one because for our dashboards, we've been able to embed audio explainers. So for a layman, just a regular government worker, if they don't understand the complexity of the dashboard, they can listen to the explanation. So that helps them have value or get value from the dashboard. Not just are they seeing all these interesting things, but they understand, they can listen to the explanation. So we're able to embed these audio explainers to the dashboards. So we have the data-driven decision making. So here we have real-time chatbot. This is a massive success. So what this does is it gives access to the database in such a way that you can, it helps the executives to interact with the database. In fact, this is the executive governor's favorite solution, because he's able to wake up in the morning and know what's happening within the ministries and maybe know who to fire, who's not working, and who needs to go, because he's able to see what's happening across these 30 ministries just by interacting with the chatbot, which has been built on top of DHIS2. Now we have the scenario planner for executive decisions, citizens real-time alert to ministry. So whatever the citizens give as a feedback, it allows the ministry to say, oh, someone has dropped a feedback. So what's happening there? So they can get all those feedback. Then we have the triangulation, of course, getting all the additional contextual geospatial data layers to provide more insight into what's happening to these areas and why, to answer some of the questions, some of the whys and where. And then 300 plus DHIS2 certified workforce. So these are all the staff working within all these ministries. They've been trained, they've been empowered to sustain this ecosystem that we have built for the people of Edo State. Next, please. So this is a more robust explanation of what I have tried to summarize. So I'll call on my colleague to take us through that journey, breakdown of that journey, all the apps that has been developed, the data analysis and visualizations that have been made, the capacities that have been built, the feedback from stakeholders and actors, and most importantly, the impact that has been felt from this solution. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ahmed Ibrahim. I am the technical lead for the entire project. So this flowchart sort of, try to encapsulate the entire project based on these seven structures, these seven focus. So the first is the extensive data digitization and capacity building, which is sort of the foundation that we built after, we deployed our DHIS2 instance. Then what next? So what we focused on was data audits of the data asset of the state. Who are the people in charge of data? Whose desk is the data? Whose laptop has the Excel sheet that we are interested in? And then we interacted with these people and identified these data champions. And then we did some trainings for them. So I'll start with that part. Next slide. So what we did initially was to identify the data, the MDAs, the agencies, the departments of government we are going to be working with. And then we engaged all the senior leaders across the entire state, irrespective of the sectors, to kind of get them involved in the project, build a buzz. And we brought them to a data immersion and learning session where we let them identify what their data is and what the data asset they have is and the importance of the data they have and the impact that the data they have could make. And during this session, we're able to get to 300 data champions, who are the people, like I mentioned, who have the data sitting in one place or one drive or one desk or the other. Then among these 300 people, we're able to engage all of them separately from all the multiple MDAs. So we have interacted with their leaders. Then we need to now move to the people, the everyday people that will be collecting the data, that will be analyzing the data, and they will be generating the insights and communicating it to the leadership. After identifying those 300 plus government officials, we now took them through a curated DHIS2 introduction course. We did expose them to the International DHIS2 Academy. We made slides and we made videos in our own dialect, in local languages, and in also Nigerian English, to make them understand what DHIS2 is about. So they don't go to the DHIS2 Academy and hear the voice of white men telling them to do things. So next slide, please. And after we have taken them through the introduction part in local context, we now expose them to the DHIS2 Academy. And with that, out of the 300 plus, we had 270 people who were able, 270 plus people who were able to get at least one certification within a month, right? And then out of these 270 people, there are 100 that within the same 1 month were able to get at least 3 certifications in the DHIS2 Academy. They finished the DHIS2 fundamentals, and some even proceeded to the other parts. So what did we do after this day effort they've put in? We celebrated them. So this is important because we had conversations with people to know what works. There are situations where giving snacks to people makes them participate more in conversations, right? There are some instances where you need to give incentives. There are some instances where, in fact, just calling them to events, taking them out of their office makes them excited. Right? So we make it we made intentional efforts to celebrate the people that are putting in the efforts to transform from their paper-based and their laptop-based systems to a more centralized source of truth. And we got these people in a room, we celebrated them, and we identified the top guys, right? And what this did to us is that, apart from the fact that we identified 300 plus people that we wanted to work with, the buzz that these people that we celebrated generated brought more people. So within what we struggled to achieve in 1 month, we got it more than that in a week following the event that we celebrated those guys, right? And this skills transfer is very important because these people that we have identified as data champions are going to go back to their own MDAs, and they are going to champion not only their data mindset, but they are going to champion the project we are trying to achieve here, which is to create a one single source of truth for Edo State. So we thought what we have done is sort of train the trainers that are going to, handle the project for us. So let's go. So when we have identified the data assets, we have trained the staff to, get familiar with DHIS2 and sort of build a structure. The next step is, of course, to start using the platform that we have built. So, and in order to even make things more easier for them, the DHIS2 login page, the DHIS2 system is beautiful. We are all used to it. I mean, there are people here that have been working with DHIS2 for over 15 years, but these are new people to the platform. So what we did, we wanted to make it more familiar to them. This is the most recognizable road in Benin City, which is the capital of Edo State. So we brought the platform from the global stage, we brought it to their own level and said, this is your own DHIS2, right? So and that effort also led to the creation of this home app, where once you log in, you don't just go directly to the dashboard. You come to this home app, this system where we created the cascade approach to guide you to the dashboard that you are looking for. So next slide, if you click on health, you see all the breakdowns under health. You see infectious disease, non-infectious disease, or general health statistics. It's only when you click any of these that then you go to the dashboard. So you are not just logging in and seeing dashboard and looking for which dashboard is yours, right? So that was one of the efforts we did. And then this next stage is important to us because, like we mentioned just before we started the presentation, we are just 2-3 years into the DHIS2, right? And our first instance was the 2.39, right? So we had some limitations. Please go back. We had some limitations with how to import data, but we want to work with historical data. These people already had the data. We are not just creating data collection tools and letting them use it. We want to bring in their own data sets. So we were using the data import app, but it was hard because you have to set the program, set the data element, and then match them together. And then we discovered the workload app, and it transformed the way we work with DHIS2 for our historical data. Now, we have created the tools to enable them to bring in the data. The next thing is to look for the low-hanging fruits to identify areas where we can have immediate impact. And this is sort of what came out of that. This is the geospatial distribution of schools in Edo State. I'm not sure if everyone is able to see the colors, but there is an interesting area here. If you go to the next slide, you'll see that this area is just filled with primary schools. Primary schools are the first 6 years of education in Nigeria, right? So there is no single secondary school within a radius of 14 kilometers. So what we see in these kind of areas is that when students who are pupils, when they have to travel very long distances to get to their next level of education, we see reduction in their academic progression. They don't go to schools, and some meet other people along the way and divert their attention. So we identified those low-hanging fruits, those little insights that we can get from their own data, and we highlighted it to them, and we started building on it from there. So in order to build on it, we had to bring in external data because DHIS2 enables that too for us. So we did this in 2 ways, right? We focused on the local part and then what is massively available internationally that we're all used to. So for the local efforts, we had Edo Voice, which is a DHIS2 capture tracker program to manage the citizen feedback. What we did was we identified local people with structure. They are everyday neighbors. They are the traders, the agents, the mobile money agents in the community who have structure we could leverage on in order to get the feedback of the people around them. So these people had internet access because they have to facilitate payments and other transactions that require internet. So which means that people that use feature phones or phones without access can go to them to submit feedbacks from what they are seeing in their environments. Next slide. And see, as you can see here, we had trading centers, we had mobile money agents where you can just go and drop your feedback. And these people have been trained to use the DHIS2 capture app on Android devices to be able to facilitate the process. So after that, we are now able to use the DHIS2 map to show the locations of this information. And what is like my colleague mentioned earlier, the governor can just log in and see where is the latest feedback coming from the society. And then you can see clusters, you can see all the things that are enabled by just viewing things on a map. And when that is submitted, when all the reports are submitted, they are routed automatically to the agents, to the government department that is responsible for that sector. So if you see anything regarding health, is going to the Ministry of Health, education is going to the Ministry of Education. So that is one layer of data which I will speak to on how we utilize data. And then we also used other third-party data sets are internationally available, and this is the World Bank. The first is the World Bank socioeconomic profiling data set, which is a very, very massive and very interesting data set because it geospatially allows you to see the clusters of the economic realities of people in the community. And then we had access to Grid 3 data, which is another massive project that was funded by Gates Foundation to be able to, and it's just high resolution geospatial data for Nigeria. I know there is Grid 3 International, but I'm more familiar with the Nigerian part. And it gives you access to population data, settlements, points of interest, and a lot of really, really cool geospatial assets. And then we also brought in the satellite imagery and mobility data from Meta. And what this allows us to do is triangulate all the data we have accumulated and explain them with people's mobility. So now I think I want to reiterate the process so that we are able to move to the next one. We looked at the data assets of the state. We identified people to champion the data assets. We enabled them to do that on the DHIS2 platform that looks like them. And then we enriched the data they have. So the next thing is, okay, we've enriched this data and these people are now interacting with this massive data set. What's the next point? Deriving insights. Now they are deriving these insights. How are the decision makers consuming it? And that's where our first effort comes in, the Edo Dida chatbot. Now, I think a very interesting outcome from this project is that the Edo Dida is the Edo State's digital governance and data management agency, which was created specifically to undo the outcome of this project, which is now the agency that is managing the single source of truth in the state. So the DHIS2 enabled platform, right? So now this chatbot is available to high-level guys to be able to interact with the data. It is trained to search and go through the DHIS2 database and get the right information for them. Next slide. So we looked at how you interact with your friend on WhatsApp, and we used that psychology to get to design the interface of the project. So we did not use the psychology of interacting with a regular AI chatbot. We looked at getting right data from, like, imagine you have a friend on WhatsApp that knows everything you need to know. So you just query and it gives you the answer. So that was our mindset going into this. And it's not, the chatbot is not only able to explore our database, it's also able to explain things that we are seeing in the database. So when you see, we used we used GPT-4o, and what that allows us to do is not only generate tables or generate text, but also plot the data immediately. So instead of reading a table and looking for which number is I, once you plot it, you're able to see the most alarming metrics that you're interested in. And then this, because it has access to geospatially enabled data, you're also able to compare based on location or some other interesting factors. And also, when the insights are generated, we also train the bot to be able to give you recommendations based on the resources that are available. So you can go deeper and you can triangulate even while chatting with the chatbot. So apart from that, we also enable, okay, so you've gotten all these things. Well, is there any other question that you should ask? So we enabled the chatbots to give us suggestions that are contextually relevant to what you are interacting with, right? So that is the first way they consume the data, the insights from their data. So the next one is the fact that there are some that, of course, will be high level. I'm not a geospatial data scientist, but when I come to a platform like this, I see audio explainers for these high-level maps that I'm looking at, right? And I think we have a demo for it just to let everyone know what they can hear when. Can you play? Oh, it's a PDF. Then you don't need to worry. Yeah, it's PDF. But it's, for example, for this flood data of the state, it will say something like, this is a flood map that shows which areas in Edo State are prone to flooding. And so it is important for farmers in these areas to be aware of interventions that are available by the state governments that can help them, right? So it says something in that line that try to explain what they are looking at and also try to say the actions that could be done from just understanding the map. And then the third way we opened the platform for them to consume the data is through the scenario analysis and planning app. It's a machine learning based app that basically allows government decision makers to drag and drop important variables inside the app and get recommendations or comparisons to what standard. And we have some, I don't think this is very clear, but this is farmer scoring system for when you are looking at farmers and farmers intervention, which variables are important and how to score people who need interventions. And then we have teachers allocation and health workers allocation. So for teachers allocation and health workers allocation, there are international standards for ratio of teachers to students or for health workers to population. So the machine learning approach is to compare what is available to recommend what should be. So those are how those elements show how they consumed the data. And then the next focus is on data analytics and decision making, right? And next. So for what we have tried to achieve is, before you even get into the DHIS2 app and before you start interacting with the data or the ways we are prepared of to consume the data, we also, on the home app, there is an overview where you are able to see an executive dashboard. What are the most important metrics, right? And this is updated every week to show the new information, because of course it is static for now. And then we also brought in supersets way before we even learned that there's effort to integrate data superset into the core app. And like I mentioned earlier, we started with version 2.39, so this was really huge for us. We're able to bring in supersets to not necessarily give the most beautiful charts, but also enable stuff like we are seeing now, where you're able to create where you're able to create visualizations that are easily citable, and you can easily derive insights just by looking at them, like, okay, this is not a problem, but this is an important indicator of something. So that's what supersets allows us to do. So we also part of the apart from the larger project, we have some offshoots from the project, right, which are some other applications or some other use cases that came up that were requested for to facilitate some other solutions in the agencies that we worked with. And that's the most important one for us is EMIS, which is Education Management Information System. We started when we wanted to implement this. I got in contact with Knut himself, and we followed his advice that starts with the aggregate system first, because of course we saw the tracker system that can track each individual student, and it's looking shiny and it's looking very interesting to us. But the advice was start with the tracker system and the low-hanging fruits, which are attendance and students' performance and all that. And we piloted in 51 schools. And we were lucky enough with time, such that just as we were rounding up our pilot stage, they had the Edo State Tech Conference, Teachers Tech Conference, which is to let teachers know the latest in education technology. And the Commissioner for Education was able to present the dashboard that we prepared for them. Now they've been seeing the schools, though they were dropping data into the system, but because they are because they're data collectors, they did not know how that was being used. So we had the opportunity to show them what the high-level guys are seeing about their schools. And the commissioner went on stage and talked about how she's able to see what is going on in each school, in each local government, anytime she's interested in it, right? And that was very, very huge for us. And the teachers were happy about it because, like we mentioned earlier, the state had some enablers, and part of it was the fact that each school had an Android tablet that was given to a couple of teachers to facilitate some tech-enabled solutions. So the EMIS is currently scaling to over 250 schools in the state right now. And then we add the HMIS, which is, of course, the home base for DHIS2. So I won't dwell much here. We were able to, not the system in Nigeria. I think I'll try to explain why we had to create an HMIS, because the system in Nigeria, there is a very solid HMIS that has been going on for over 13 years, if I'm correct. So the data goes directly from the health facilities to they have a flow from the health facilities directly to the state and then to the national system. But these people do not get to understand what they are using the data for. They know there is the Ministry of Health is interested in data. They are very particular about getting the data, but they were not seeing the results from or the insights from their data. They are just getting to know about interventions when they come. But for EMIS, we're able to look for our HMIS, we're able to work directly with health facilities, and we're able to show them the dashboards, and we're able to explain and let them understand what is going on with the data they are collecting and the insights they can get from the data themselves in the states, because of course we are working with the state at the highest level. And then the third outcome is a solution that was enabled by the fact that we now have access to a lot of data across multiple MDAs. So we showed the state government that for an example of what you could do with this type of data is a business connect platform where you could use, the location of businesses, businesses that are paying tax, where businesses are clustered and all those information. Then you could connect businesses together, right? So we have some other solutions that are just short off from the project, but in order to save time and reduce the length of our presentation, we decided to remove some of them and we'll get to see them later. So I will stop now and let Uyi Okundaye, the project manager, to come and wrap it up and talk about how we were able to encourage them more to participate and also to connect with the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmad. Thank you, Ahmad. Am I audible? Have sound? Am I audible? Audible? Yeah. All right. Thanks, Ahmad. I don't need to introduce myself. Ahmad already did. So I'll just unpack a few aspects of the project that feel is very important because they really helped to contribute, to the success that the project is enjoying currently in the state, and also played a huge factor in building, on the popularity which the project is enjoying right now. First of all, was in Edo State, like my colleague mentioned, one of the problems the state had was the presence of a lot of disparate, fragmented data that needed to be addressed. And the executive governor was very interested and understood the importance of data centralization in order to, build a data governance system. And then for the project, we supported with the procurement and then installation of a server in the state's data center, because the state already had a data center which was just there, but we felt was actually being underutilized. So the procurement and installation of a dedicated server, also supported the governor's agenda to centralize all the data that exists within the state, making sure that the state, is in possession of all the data and data is no longer disparate. That plays a very huge, factor for the success which we enjoyed because we supported that initiative. And then also the fact that, the data there's a local instance at the data center, and then also a cloud version, effort to further secure the data, making sure that no data is missing. And then thirdly, and very importantly, is the fact that data is a very huge conversation now. And then globally, there is the issue of data privacy, data security. So the platform is a data governance platform. And then the Edo State Data Governance Platform, we actually brought in a globally recognized agency, a data protection and compliance agency with presence across over 170 countries to come in and audit the platform. So I can tell you for a fact that the Edo State Data Governance Platform, is NDPR certified. In other words, it's actually compliant with, the state's data privacy and protection regulatory rules, and also adheres to, global best practices for, data collection. All the frameworks for data exchange within the platform were fully and duly audited based on local standards and then global benchmarks. Also, another thing that was very important for the success of the project was the fact that every element and aspect of the project was adequately documented. The entire value chain, right from data collection, the entire data value chain from data collection to how data is consumed, and the steps, the approaches. And this was very important that these documentations, were actually sufficiently and adequately captured, please. And it resides with the state. We all know the role this will play for project sustainability and then also platform maintenance and management as well. And then we just felt, okay, it's important to also show some of the feedbacks from the executive government and then key members of the central government, to demonstrate the influence of the platform, right from the previous executive governor who mentioned that the chatbot made him actually he felt smarter by engaging with the chatbot and getting snackable data that would normally be in spreadsheets and, getting simplified insights that you can use for conversations with friends. And then to the previous Commissioner for Education, who actually used one of the dashboards that my colleagues mentioned for the platform, the dashboard where there was no secondary school was found across 14 square kilometer radius in a particular local government. You actually use that data, to plan where would be the next best location or place to locate a secondary school. And that was actually helpful for us. She made comments on that, and it was also published. And then to the state head of service, who is actually the boss of over 100,000 members of the public service, who actually mentioned that, the decision and making platform, actually is helping to improve the service delivery in the state, and also supporting the state's digital agenda. And even the current Commissioner for Education, who of course came in from the private sector, but has actually mentioned that he's very intrigued seeing the level of innovation that he's witnessing within his ministry, simply by the implementation of the EMIS project, and also his own, the other use cases from the educational data set that exists on the platform. So that's it. But there were also learnings from what we've implemented so far, and we feel that these are notable, learnings from the implementation, our multi-sectoral approach to implementing the DHIS2 in Edo State. First of all, the fact that we now know that DHIS2 deployment is possible beyond what is known, such as implementations like in health, in education, because we implemented this, for agriculture. You saw a dashboard that was visualized just now, flood susceptibility mapping, for agricultural use case. It's helping currently for land use optimization in the state, and it's also ensuring improving food security in the state. Agriculture, that's uncommon, even implemented for other units of government like gender and related issues, buildings and public maintenance, and then 27 others, because I mentioned like 3. And that's very important that we buttress those points, that it's doable. We've shown that it's doable. And then also it's important that we notice that it's important to cultivate and strengthen a bottom-up approach to data culture. In other words, working with data champions at the bottom level is important, but it's also important that the executives understand data and understand the value of data. Now, it will take different approach, to these 2 individuals. While at the bottom level, you have to drive and facilitate a lot of trainings, and skills empowerment. But at the executive level, you need to be able to explain and, discuss their use cases with them and compare to what's available and what obtains globally, because they all want to measure, with what, is obtainable globally. And then thirdly, embedded human-centered approach works because here, methodology that we focused on and paid attention to was the fact that we actually work with the data champions and in such a way that with each unit of government, they felt like project owners within their units of government, so that helped us build a shared sense of ownership, across all units of government. And also that's also, generated a lot of momentum and interest while working with each unit of government. And then thirdly, we realized it was important, very important. So the success factor was the fact that, securing leadership support for the project early on the project, is very important. Now, if you observe the previous slide, I talked about the previous governor, the previous commissioner, the current head of service, who of course was also the head of service of the previous government, and even the current commissioner. So that tells you that the multi-sectoral deployment of the DHIS2 platform has actually, transcended one government and is actually still having a lot of influence in the new government. And we have enough, put forward enough, maybe areas of documentations and continued support, to continue to support the new government to make sure, that it is sustainable and it continues to deliver value, So these are things that we just wanted to unbundle and put forward here, as learnings, for, possibly the new boy, the new boy, had a new girl, the new boy. All right, so that's it. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
You guys submitted like 5 abstracts.
Yeah. 8 abstracts. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think honestly, where almost everyone, and certainly myself, would have stopped. You just kept going.
Right.
Think that step, right? From getting the data out to
Yeah.
So when I first saw it, I was amazed. I was inspired. I hope you all were inspired too. So we have a few minutes we can take to get to the
Question. This it? Okay, another one. This.
Okay, thank you very much for the beautiful presentation and the project you have undertaken. Looking at how you manage to bring all the government ministry or institution together on the platform, I want to find out how did you penetrate to bring the ministries? I saw about 24 ministries on board on the platform. How did you manage to penetrate and convince them to come on board? And how long did it take you to do that? Thank you.
Okay. I'll just respond to that question. First of all, there was an assessment study that was done, pre-assessment study that was done, to ascertain digital readiness, for across the state. So the state had already made some efforts to digitize public service, made some efforts and investments in providing access to high quality and high speed fiber optic internet across units of government. So all that digital enablement also play a factor. So then we had good engagement with the units of government. But first of all, before that, the executive leadership, was also engaged. And then with his investments, the objective was actually aligning with what he wanted to achieve, and all of that. And so we had good support from top, and which we leveraged, while engaging with units of government. Importantly, we first of all, like my colleague mentioned, we first of all identified the units with the low-hanging fruits, and then we were able to, implement these, and they could have very good appreciation of it. And then, we had some effort with, by creating, we created the workshop, a stakeholders workshop where we invited all the leaders, to have data discussion, to sort of create a buzz, around what data could be and how data should be collected, how data should be managed, how data should be analyzed, how insights should be generated, and how they should actually be consumed. So those were some of the efforts that we.
Okay, I think to add to
practiced.
that, the critical success factor was getting the high level buy-in.
Yeah.
As soon as we got the governor in, it was sealed. You wouldn't dare his command. If he says you have to upload your information, you will have to upload it. So that played a very huge role once we got his buy-in to disaggregate the low-hanging fruits and the evangelism of data utilization within the state, because it aligned with his goal. So it was pretty easy. Once we got the high-level buy-in, we're good.
How long? Oh, okay. Well, the implementation of the project, it wasn't really a one-off. We didn't have the 20. Like I said, we identified some low-hanging fruit implemented for education, health, agriculture, very strategic partners. And then also, while we were also helping the other units of government to understand what their data variables are, what their data needs are, because don't forget, like we said, it was pretty much disparate. So there was a lot of effort put into place helping these units of government understand, get in their data, digitize their data, help them build, variable templates, what local variables would you be interested in as a unit of government? This is the level of insight you can generate from these variables you have. Now, if you want to see the next level insight, you should be collecting these kinds of variables. So we help them build this variable. So in a space of, the project has been implemented from November 2022 till date. So we've been able to close for a period of 2023. Yeah, thank you. So this has taken about roughly 14 months, took roughly 14 months to get to where we are, 30 units of government. Yeah. Yeah. Want to answer?
So
Signal.
yeah,
Signal.
these guys are here.
Yes.
Please come talk. We don't have time. The next session starts actually in 5 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
So we'll just have to roll on. Let's give them the one more talk.
Yes. Yes. Business. Thank you.
Big box.